नमस्कार दोस्तों, आप देख रहे हैं बिजनेस टुडे टीवी। मैं हूं साक्षी बत्रा और ये है बिजनेस टुडे बाजार, जहां पर हम आपको बताते हैं कि आज स्टॉक मार्केट्स में क्लोजिंग एक्शन आपको किस तरीके का देखने को मिल रहा है। आज दिन भर कैसी हलचल दिखी, कहां तेजी और मंदी थी, और खास तौर पर करंट मार्केट सिनेरियो में आपके लिए कमाई के लिए मौके कहां पर हैं। एक्सपर्ट से जानेंगे, खास बातचीत भी करेंगे, लेकिन सबसे पहले देखते हैं बाजार का ताज़ा हाल। महज अगर आप देखें तो 12-13 मिनट बचे हैं बाजार के बंद होने में, और दिन के उच्चतम स्तरों के करीब ही बाजार इस समय ट्रेड कर रहे हैं। एक तरफ अगर आप देखें तो निफ्टी 18,300 के लेवल्स के ऊपर आ चुका है, वहीं सेंसेक्स में भी 230 अंकों की बढ़त है। 61,965 के लेवल्स आपको सेंसेक्स पर नजर आ रहे हैं। दोनों ही छोटे मझौले इंडिसेस में एक अच्छी खासी बढ़त बनी हुई है। दोनों में ऑलमोस्ट इन टैंडम विद निफ्टी एक मूव नजर आ रहा है। ब्रॉडर मार्केट्स के अलावा अगर आप इंडिसेस की भी बात करेंगे तो आईटी, फार्मा स्टॉक्स, रियल्टी, इनमें अच्छी खासी तेजी आज के सेशन में देखने को मिल रही है। निफ्टी बैंक बिल्कुल फ्लैट है, लेकिन बाकी कुछ सेक्टर्स में काफ़ी अच्छा मूव आज के सेशन में नजर आ रहा है। अगर आप स्टॉक्स के बारे में भी बात करेंगे तो आपको क्लियरली पता चलेगा कि अदानी ग्रुप के स्टॉक्स आज काफ़ी फ्लेवर में हैं। ज़्यादातर स्टॉक्स, इनफैक्ट सभी हरे निशान में ही स्टॉक्स ट्रेड कर रहे हैं अदानी ग्रुप से। कुछ एक स्टॉक्स में आप देख सकते हैं अदानी एंटरप्राइजेस दिन के उच्चतम स्तरों पर 19% ऊपर एक ही दिन में 2333 के लेवल्स अब नजर आ रहे हैं। अदानी पोर्ट्स में 6% तक का मूव, और ऐसे ही आप देखेंगे बाकी सभी ग्रुप के स्टॉक्स में भी ज़बरदस्त रैली आज के सेशन में है। इसके अलावा फार्मा स्टॉक्स भी आप देख सकते हैं 5.5% ऊपर डिविस लेबोरेटरीज ट्रेड कर रहा है। इसके अलावा अपोलो हॉस्पिटल्स में अच्छी खासी तेजी नजर आ रही है। आईटी स्पेस से भी टेक महिंद्रा, विप्रो जैसे स्टॉक्स जो हैं अच्छी बढ़त आज के ट्रेडिंग सेशन में दिखा रहे हैं। लूजिंग साइड पे भी कुछ एक स्टॉक्स हैं, जैसे एफएमसीजी के कुछ स्टॉक्स आपको दिखेंगे जहां पर थोड़ी वीकनेस है। बैंक्स के कुछ स्टॉक्स देखेंगे, ऑटो स्टॉक्स, नेस्ले, हीरो मोटोकॉर्प, आयशर मोटर्स, इसके अलावा एक्सिस बैंक, भारतीय एयरटेल और कोल इंडिया, यहाँ पर आधे प्रतिशत तक की वीकनेस है, लेकिन ज़्यादातर स्टॉक्स जो हैं वो आज पॉजिटिव ब्रेथ में ही नजर आ रहे हैं। चलिए इसी के साथ स्वागत करते हैं हम आज के खास मेहमान का। हमारे साथ सुनील दामानिया जी मौजूद हैं, चीफ इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑफिसर हैं मार्केट्स मोजो के। मिस्टर दामानिया, बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपको आपका बिजनेस टुडे टीवी के इस खास शो पर। सबसे पहले तो मैं बाजार के ऊपर ही आपका आउटलुक जानना चाहूँगी, क्योंकि बाजार ने रिएक्शन आज दिया है बड़े डिसीजंस को जो आरबीआई ने लिए थे फ्राइडे इवनिंग को, कि 2,000 रुपये का जो नोट है उसे विड्रॉ कर लिया गया था। ऐसा माना जा रहा था कि जिस तरीके की कन्फ्यूजन लोगों में है शायद वो स्टॉक मार्केट्स में ना दिखे, लेकिन यहाँ पर तो बाजार ऑलमोस्ट दिन के उच्चतम स्तरों पर बंद होने के कगार पे है। किस तरीके का असेसमेंट आपने किया इस खबर का और इसका इम्पैक्ट स्टॉक मार्केट्स पर?
थैंक्स अ लॉट साक्षी जी, ये प्रोग्राम में इनवाइट करने के लिए। आई थिंक जैसे हम कहते थे ना कि कोई एक इवेंट की इम्पैक्ट दो बार नहीं होती है, वैसा ही कुछ डीमोन के साथ भी हुआ है। जब हमने जो 500,000 रुपये की जो नोट को जब पाबंदी लगाई गई थी, तभी मार्केट में काफी हद तक एक घबराहट थी, लेकिन 2,000 में ये हुआ नहीं है। इसका वजह यही है कि एक तो कम लोगों के पास 2,000 की नोट है, वन।
जी।
नंबर टू, 2,000 की नोट ऐसे भी सिस्टम से चली गई थी अगर आपके डेली। और दूसरा क्या हुआ है कि जब लास्ट टाइम जब डिमोन हुआ था, तभी डिजिटल इकोनॉमी इतनी पावरफुल नहीं थी। अभी तो हमारे जो डिजिटल वॉलेट इतने पावरफुल हो गए हैं कि लोग अभी पैसे लेके जाना भी बंद कर दिया है। तो ये इम्पैक्ट बहुत कम लोगों के ऊपर होने वाले, नंबर वन। नंबर टू, आई थिंक मार्केट ये देख रहा है कि जो 2,000 रुपये जो अभी तक लॉकर में पड़े थे या अपने तिजोरी में पड़े थे, कहीं ना कहीं वो सिस्टम में आएंगे। क्यों? कि उसको एक्सचेंज करना पड़ेगा, आपको डिपॉजिट करना पड़ेगा अपने अकाउंट में। उससे इकोनॉमी का ग्रोथ बढ़ सकता है। अगर इकोनॉमी का ग्रोथ बढ़ता है तो उसका डेफिनेटली मुनाफा मार्केट को भी मिलेगा। तो ये काफी हद तक पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट है। अगर जब ये आंकड़े आएंगे जीडीपी के, तो कहीं ना कहीं इसका जो 2,000 रुपया नोट पे जो पाबंदी लगाने जा रही है, जो लीगल टेंडर जो कभी आगे जाके साथ खत्म हो जाएगा, उसका बेनिफिट भी हमें जीडीपी ग्रोथ में देखने को मिल सकता है। तो उसी वजह से आज मार्केट काफी चेयरफुल है। एडवांस डिक्लाइन रेशियो भी काफी हद तक बढ़िया अच्छा है। वो क्लियर कट दिखा रहा है कि ये नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट नहीं है, ये पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट है इकोनॉमी के लिए।
ठीक है, तो ऐसे में इन्वेस्टर्स को किस तरीके से अब अपना निवेश करना चाहिए? क्या इसकी वजह से आपको लगता है कुछ एक सेक्टर्स के लिए सबसे ज़्यादा बेनिफिट हो सकता है? जैसे काफ़ी हम रिपोर्ट्स पढ़ रहे हैं जिसमें ऐसा माना जा रहा है कि इस डिसीजन के बाद डिपॉजिट्स जो हैं बैंक्स में बढ़ सकते हैं। कुछ एस्टिमेट्स कहते हैं 1 लाख करोड़ तक का कैश जो है वो आ सकता है, बैंक्स में लिक्विडिटी बूस्ट मिल सकती है। आपने भी जैसे अभी बताया कि कुछ एक सेक्टर्स के लिए बेनिफिट है, तो इन्वेस्टर्स को किस तरीके से यहाँ पर अब निवेश की तरफ आगे बढ़ना चाहिए? कौन से सेक्टर्स में इसका बेनिफिट होगा सबसे?
तो एक तो वेरी ऑब्वियस बेनिफिट जो होगा वो तो है अपना रियल एस्टेट। बिकॉज जहां तक वो जो बड़ा पैसा है वो शायद 2,000 की नोट में एब्जॉर्ब कर सकते हैं, और रियल एस्टेट। नंबर टू, कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है कि जो 1,000 करोड़ 1 लाख करोड़ जहाँ जहाँ तक की जो लिक्विडिटी क्रिएट होगी बैंकिंग सिस्टम में, कहीं ना कहीं वो फ्लो होगी वापस म्यूचुअल फंड में। बिकॉज हमने 2000 जब 500 1000 रुपए की नोट का भी जब डिमॉन देखा था, वही हुआ था कि जो पैसे बैंक में नहीं रहे, इवेंचुअली इट मूव टू द म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री। वैसा ऐसा लगता है कि वो भी इस बार भी वैसा ही कुछ होने वाला है। नंबर वन। नंबर टू, नंबर थ्री, मुझे ये लग रहा है कि जहाँ पे जो कंजम्पशन है, बहुत लोग अपना जो पैसा है शायद उसको खर्चा करना चाहेंगे, फिर वो लग्जरी आइटम्स हो, जैसे आपकी कोई हाउस होल्ड के गैजेट्स हो, जैसे कंज्यूमर ड्यूरेबल अप्लायंसेज हो, शायद उस पर कंजम्पशन एक देख सकते हैं हम लोग। रियल एस्टेट देख जो आपने बताया वो गोल्ड एक है जो लगता है शायद कहीं ना कहीं गोल्ड में भी काफी हद तक ये पैसा जा सकता है। तो अगर आपको एक, पर आप इससे रणनीति नहीं बना सकते साक्षी जी। मेरा कहने का तात्पर्य है कि ये सेक्टर को बेनिफिट होगा, और
जी।
बाकी भी पहलू देखने पड़ेंगे, उसके जो इंडस्ट्री के जो क्या डिमांड एंड सप्लाई सिचुएशन वो भी देखना पड़ेगा। तो ये जो रिलीफ है, जो बेनिफिट है, ये बहुत टेम्पररी है, कुछ ऐसा नहीं कि ये कोई स्ट्रक्चरल चेंज नहीं हुआ है। तो आपको 2 3 महीने तक ये आपको बेनिफिट मिलेगा, पर उसके बाद उसकी जो इकोनॉमिक, उसकी जो इंडस्ट्री की जो डायनेमिक्स है वो क्या करने वाली है, क्या डिमांड सप्लाई है वो देखना चाहिए। तो एक टेक्निकल कॉल ले सकते हैं, लेकिन स्ट्रेटेजिक कॉल आप इसमें नहीं ले सकते, जो भी होती है।
ओके, ठीक है। अब अदानी ग्रुप के ऊपर भी आपसे एक जानकारी ले लेती हूँ कि किस तरीके से आपने न्यूज़ डेवलपमेंट को देखा, क्योंकि फ्राइडे के सेशन में जब ये खबरें आई थी कि इंटरिम रिपोर्ट को पब्लिक किया गया था, उसमें खास तौर पर बताया गया कि सेबी की तरफ से कुछ अभी तक कहा नहीं जा सकता कि कोई रेगुलेटरी फेलियर है या प्राइस मैनिपुलेशन को लेकर कोई भी चीज़ें सामने नहीं आई हैं, जिसके बाद लगातार हम अदानी ग्रुप के स्टॉक्स में तेज़ी देख रहे हैं। आपने इस न्यूज़ का असेसमेंट कैसे किया, और क्या ये मान सकते हैं कि जो भी वर्स्ट था, इम्पैक्ट कर रहा था अदानी ग्रुप को अभी तक, जनवरी से लेकर अब तक, क्या वो अब बिहाइंड है?
तो ये क्या है, एक न्यूज़ फ्लो के हिसाब से अडानी ग्रुप में उतार चढ़ाव देखने को मिलेंगे। जब जब कोई पॉजिटिव न्यूज़ आएगा, हमें उस पर ऊपर जाने को देगा, नेगेटिव पर नीचे जाएंगे। अभी आप इसको क्या पोर्टफोलियो में ले सकते हो? द आंसर इज नो। क्यों? कि इसमें वॉलेटिलिटी ज़्यादा रहेगी। आज पॉजिटिव न्यूज़ है तो ऊपर चला गया, शायद कल कोई नेगेटिव न्यूज़ आ जाए तो शायद वो नीचे भी जा सकता है। तो जो इन्वेस्टर जो थोड़े कमजोर है, अपने वीक हार्टेड है, उनको थोड़ा दूरी लेना चाहिए। एक दिन की तेजी से हमें ये नहीं मान लेना चाहिए कि ये सेक्टर, एक ये ग्रुप आपका अच्छा करेगा, बिकॉज ये डेवलपिंग स्टोरी है। वहां पे कहीं ना कहीं न्यूज आते रहेंगे और उसको इम्पैक्ट करेगा। आई थिंक एज एन इन्वेस्टर हम क्या चाहते हैं कि भाई अडानी ग्रुप में जो ऑरेंज है वो कैसे उसको मिटिगेट कर सकते हैं, कितने उसको रिड्यूस कर सकते हैं, हाउ आर दे गोइंग टू रेज फंड्स टू क्रिएट दैट। अगर आपको मालूम है तो अडानी इंटरप्राइज का जो आईपीओ आने वाला था,
जी।
एफपीओ सॉरी, वो आ
जी।
नहीं पे कैंसिल करना पड़ा। तो आई थिंक मार्केट विल लुक फॉरवर्ड टू सम फंड रेजिंग एबिलिटी ऑफ अडानी ग्रुप। अगर वो सक्सेसफुल होता है तो कहीं ना कहीं फिर एक लंबी अवधि तक एक विश्वास जगाएगा कि यस, ये ग्रुप बढ़ के आ सकता है मुश्किलों से। अभी थोड़े दूरी रहना की मैं सलाह देना चाहता हूँ।
अच्छा, ठीक है। ओवरऑल मार्केट्स में आपकी पसंदीदा थीम्स अभी कौन-सी हैं? अगर आपको लगता है कि इस बाज़ार में अगर कहीं निवेश करने की अपॉर्च्युनिटीज़ ढूँढनी चाहिए, तो इन्वेस्टर्स को कहाँ फ़ोकस करना चाहिए?
हमें लगता है कि कपल ऑफ सेक्टर्स बहुत अच्छी तरह से चल चल सकते हैं आगे जाके। वन तो डेफिनेटली एक आईटी है। हमने आईटी में बहुत काफ़ी हद तक गिरावट देखी। जब टीसीएस इन्फोसिस के नंबर आए, कहीं ना कहीं कंसर्न्स हो गया था कि ग्रोथ शायद नहीं होगा। अभी वो कंसर्न्स थोड़े अबेट होते चले हैं। सेकंड थिंग, जो क्राइसिस हमने यूएस में बैंकिंग क्राइसिस देखी थी, मिड और स्मॉल बैंक के, कहीं ना कहीं वो क्राइसिस भी अब कुछ अ, थमती हुई दिख रही है। तो उसका डेफिनेटली एक बेनिफिट आईटी सेक्टर को मिल रहा है, नंबर वन। नंबर टू, आई थिंक फार्मा एज ए सेक्टर स्टार्टेड रीजनेबली वेल। तो यूएस में जो जनरिक के जो प्राइसेस थे वो कहीं ना कहीं स्टेबलाइज हो गई है। इंडिया का में जो ग्रोथ है दवाइयों का, वो डबल डिजिट में ग्रोथ हो रहा है, महीना आफ्टर महीना, एवरी मंथ आफ्टर मंथ, दैट्स हैपनिंग। So I think pharma looks very, very promising. IT looks very, very promising. Another sector which we can all look, हम लोग देख सकते हुए capital goods and infra. क्यों capital goods and infra साक्षी? Because गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने 10.5 लाख करोड़ का बजट में अनाउंसमेंट किया, और ये इलेक्शन ईयर है, तो गवर्नमेंट देखेगी कि भाई ये जो पैसे हमने एलोकेट किए हैं वो कहीं ना कहीं खर्चा हो जाए, तो उसकी जो बेनिफिट है उनको वो शायद इलेक्शन में मिल सके। तो इस तरह से मुझे लगता है कि जो ऑर्डर एग्जीक्यूशन है 2023-24 में, वो काफी हद तक बढ़िया रहेगा, और उसका बेनिफिट। और सेकंड थिंग, रॉ मटेरियल कॉस्ट, आप सीमेंट की देख लो या आप अदर रॉ मटेरियल कॉस्ट के देखो, कहीं ना कहीं नीचे जा रही है। तो उसकी वजह से
हुँ।
नॉट नॉट और टॉप लाइन ग्रो होगी, तो उनकी बॉटम लाइन भी काफी हद तक ग्रो हो सकते हैं, कैपिटल गुड्स और इंफ्रा की। तो ये तीन सेक्टर में डेफिनेटली कुछ बनता है, लगता है कि ध्यान रखना चाहिए आप।
ओके, ठीक है। स्मॉल कैप्स और मिड कैप्स में अभी आप किस तरीके से रणनीति बनाने के लिए कहेंगे? हाल ही में हमने देखा है कि यहाँ पर भी अच्छी खासी जो मूव दिखे हैं, क्या ये सही समय है निवेश करने का और अपने पोर्टफोलियो में शामिल करने का?
डेफिनेटली यस साक्षी, आई थिंक 2023 में अब तक मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप ने आउट परफॉर्म किया है लार्ज कैप को। ये चीज़ नहीं थी 2022 में, और 2022 में इसलिए नहीं थी कि रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट बढ़ रहे थे। जब रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट बढ़ती है तो मार्केट का एक नज़रिया होता है, तरीका होता है रिस्क ऑफ स्ट्रेटेजी खेलने का। कहीं न कहीं मार्केट को अभी लग रहा है कि जो रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट थे, जो इन्फ्लेशन थे, वो कहीं न कहीं आगे जाके संभल जाएँगे, थम जाएँगे, और आगे जाके शायद नीचे भी जा सकते हैं, रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट और इन्फ्लेशन दोनों। तो उसकी वजह से कहीं न कहीं रिस्क ऑन स्ट्रैटेजी आ रही है। जब-जब रिस्क ऑन स्ट्रैटेजी आती है, तो मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप डज़ एक्सट्रीमली वेल। 2023 में अब तक हमने फर्स्ट हाफ में बहुत कम अंतर से आउट परफॉर्म देखा है मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप का। लेकिन सेकंड हाफ में मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप कुड बी एक्सट्रीमली वेरी वेल, बिकॉज़ मुझे लगता है कि कहीं न कहीं जो गैप है बिटवीन मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप का परफॉर्मेंस, कहीं न कहीं वो वाइड होता जाएगा, और मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप काफ़ी हद तक आउट परफॉर्म करेंगे लार्ज कैप को। तो अगर आपको एक एसेट एलोकेशन स्ट्रैटेजी करनी है और आप थोड़े मॉडरेट रिस्क प्रोफाइल के इन्वेस्टर्स हो, तो यू कैन हैव अप टू 50% इन मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप।
ठीक है। चलिए, बहुत-बहुत शुक्रिया मिस्टर दमानिया हमारे साथ मौजूद रहने के लिए इस खास शो पर, तमाम इनसाइट्स हमारे दर्शकों के साथ शेयर करने के लिए कि इस बाज़ार में अगर निवेश करने के मौके ढूँढने हैं तो वो कहाँ पर देखने को मिल सकते हैं। बहुत-बहुत शुक्रिया। फ़िलहाल देखें, अगर नज़र डालें आप बाज़ार पर, तो इस समय 216 अंकों की बढ़त लेकर फ़िलहाल सेंसेक्स कामकाज कर रहा है। 61,950 के लेवल्स हैं। वहीं 18,300 के ऊपर बना हुआ है फ़िलहाल निफ्टी। 102 अंकों की बढ़त लेकर आधे प्रतिशत तक की मजबूती। महज 2 मिनट बचे हैं बाजार के बंद होने में। देखना यह है कि बाजार इस लेवल पर बंद होने में कामयाब रहते हैं या फिर नहीं। अगर आप ब्रॉडर मार्केट्स पर भी नज़र डालें तो आधे प्रतिशत तक की तेज़ी यहाँ पर देखने को मिल रही है। 0.6% तक का उछाल आपको मिड कैप 100 इंडेक्स में दिखेगा। 32,750 के लेवल्स हैं। वहीं स्मॉल कैप्स में आप देखें तो 9,945 के लेवल्स पर फिलहाल 50 अंक ऊपर कामकाज किए इंडेक्स भी कर रहा है। निफ्टी के गेनर्स में खास तौर पर अदानी समूह के ज़्यादातर स्टॉक्स आपको दिखेंगे 19.5% ऊपर। अदानी एंटरप्राइजेस आज निफ्टी का टॉप गेनर क्लियरली देखने को मिल रहा है। 2337 के लेवल्स पर अभी कामकाज। 732 रुपये के लेवल पर अगर आप देखें तो अदानी पोर्ट्स भी कामकाज कर रहा है। 6.5% तक की मजबूती। डिविस लेबोरेटरीज में 5% तक की बढ़त है। ये टॉप 3 निफ्टी के गेनर्स हैं। इसके अलावा अपोलो हॉस्पिटल्स, टेक महिंद्रा, विप्रो आज 2.5% से 3.5% तक की बढ़त लेकर ये सभी स्टॉक्स निफ्टी के टॉप गेनर्स में शामिल। इसके अलावा आईटी पैक के सभी समूह स्टॉक्स आप देख सकते हैं। HCL टेक, TCS, इन्फोसिस 2-2% तक की मजबूती यहाँ पर भी देखने को मिल रही है। लेकिन डाउन साइड पर आपको ऑटो स्टॉक्स दिखेंगे स्लोअर लेन में, हीरो मोटो और आयशर मोटर्स। इसके अलावा एक्सिस बैंक, नेस्ले जैसे कुछ नाम आपको शामिल होते हुए दिखेंगे, जहां पर आज ओवरऑल बाजार में वीकनेस नज़र आ रही है। क्लोजिंग लेवल्स आपके स्क्रीन पर अब 18,300 के लेवल के ऊपर बंद होने में निफ्टी कामयाब। वहीं 200 अंकों से कम, इनफैक्ट 194 पॉइंट्स के जंप के साथ सेंसेक्स में आपको बढ़त दिखेगी। तो डेफिनेटली बाजार की शुरुआत पॉजिटिव नोट पर हुई है, लेकिन इस हफ्ते भर में बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो कि बाजार को ट्रैक करनी होगी। अर्निंग्स के अलावा ग्लोबली किस तरीके का इम्पैक्ट होता है, धीरे धीरे जैसे हम देखेंगे कि ये जो 2000 रुपये का नोट का विड्रॉवल है, अलग अलग सेक्टर्स इसे कैसे असेस कर रहे हैं, क्या मटीरियल इम्पैक्ट यहाँ पर पड़ रहा है नहीं, और बाजार की हर खबर को समझने के लिए आप हमारे साथ बने रह सकते हैं बिजनेस टुडे टीवी के इस खास प्लेटफॉर्म पर। तो इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें और हमारे बाकी सभी सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म्स के जरिए भी आप लगातार जुड़े रह सकते हैं। तब तक के लिए नमस्कार। Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today TV. I'm Sakshi Batra, and on this special edition, we're going to be focusing on the Q4 earnings. The company on our radar right now is the realty firm Arvind Smart Spaces, which has reported a 33% decline in the consolidated net profit at 9.3 crore rupees for the quarter ending March 2023. The total income has also slipped, about to 94.37 crore rupees in Q4 from a year ago period where we saw the total income at 163 odd crore rupees.
rupees as well. But now to understand more insights about the bookings and the outlook as far as the real estate demand is concerned, I'm now joined by the company's top management. Mr. Kamal Singhal joins in. He's the MD and CEO of Arvind Smart Spaces. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time out for this discussion. First up, I wanted to get a sense of the kind of bookings that you have been able to clock in this quarter. And has there been a rise on that front, at least on a both sequential as well as a year-on-year basis?
Thank you for having me on the show. The year ending March 23 and the quarter ending March 23 has been a great year and the quarter for us. In fact, record-breaking in many senses. We posted highest ever fresh sales of around 800 crores, in excess of 800 crores for the year. And we also had one of the best quarters historically with a sales of around 244 crores, which is a growth of around 63% over the last year. The same thing happened in terms of volumes and the number of units that we sold. And we saw a very, very hefty growth of around 30% for the whole year and in excess of 100% growth for the year as a whole.
So, sir, you were explaining to me the rationale behind the dip in the profitability and the incomes right there. If you could help us understand, if you've had record sales and there's a considerable amount of growth both on sequential and year-on-year basis, why is it not reflecting on the top line and bottom line?
As I just said, we had a great year in terms of operating performance. The fresh sales, fresh booking, both in terms of value and volume, went up dramatically. In fact, we registered highest ever sales of around 800 crores for the year. And we also registered 244 crore rupees sales for the quarter as such, which reflected a growth of 63% for the quarter and almost 33% for the year as a whole. But naturally, this is not reflecting in the books of account. It is mainly on account of the fact that the way accounting standard works of late is that it basically recognizes revenue only from the projects which get completed in a particular period. For example, in this quarter, we did not complete any project per se from the point of view of getting building use permission, etc., from the authority in a formal way, and hence no fresh numbers from the fresh project could enter into the books of account. But this fact is also worth understanding from a slightly different context, that our unrecognized revenues have gone up from 1,000 crores last year to 1,500 crores this year, an increase of around 500 crores. Basically, this is a delta between what we did in terms of fresh sales and what came into our books of account. And because not everything could come into books of account, unrecognized revenues have gone up, while the sales has not reflected in the books to the extent we sold.
Okay. If you could also give me a sense of, in terms of segments, residential, industrial, and commercial, which are the key growth drivers for you currently, and going forward, which are going to be your key focus areas?
So we are very clear. We are very clearly focused on residential development. 95% or thereabouts is the component of residential in our portfolio, and that's how it's going to be panning out in future. We do a little bit of a commercial and retail as well simultaneously, but that's more like an adjacency to the residential that we do, but not in a very specific focused way. So this is going to be our focus area, and we will broadly remain and grow as a residential company.
Okay. As far as the, on-ground real estate demand is concerned, you did talk about, your particular sales have been quite robust and, record in a lot of senses as well. If you could talk to us about FY24 as an outlook, because we are now seeing that we are at the end of the rate hike cycle as well. What will that entail for the demand on ground in FY24?
So as you said, some of the headwinds, mainly on account of cost increase, and also interest rates going up gradually in the last few quarters. I think we have seen the peak, or we are very near the peak of these factors. In fact, cost increase has plateaued, and prices have actually come down to a certain extent. To that extent, I think we are hoping to see a very, very stable regime in the year 24. A stable regime for real estate is a great blessing. People are more confident about investment. People have that frame of mind of having bigger homes, having better homes, having homes with their own lands and skies, as we call it, the horizontal kind of products with villas and plots, etc., selling better than than the built-up properties. To that
Yeah.
extent, a stable environment, rates peaking out or near peaking out, augurs well for us, and we hope that demand is going to be quite stable and healthy in the coming years and quarter.
Okay, and like you pointed out that we are nearing the rate, hike cycle, the end of the rate hike cycle, and also we are looking at inflation really cooling off as well. What would that really mean for price hikes going forward, sir?
So for sure, I mean, price hikes on account of commodity prices should taper down significantly, and that has been one of the major reasons. I mean, price hikes were necessitated to a large extent by that. And now that we are seeing and hoping that prices will remain stable on commodity side, prices should remain reasonably okay. So we don't see, I mean, apart from the normal healthy price increases in any industry that one expects to see, we don't see any major increases coming our way. And that's great. I mean, that's a good news for everybody.
Okay. Could you also help us understand, I remember reading up about, the news that, you also pre-sold some of your projects like within hours after launching. What is the reason behind, luxury homes, high-end homes, heavier ticket price homes getting sold as soon as they are getting launched? What does that really indicate? And is that sentiment likely to continue?
Yeah, so there are two aspects to that. One is how the general preferences in the markets are doing. So we've seen a great amount of traction in general, so to say, in the industry. We have seen post-COVID a very specific inclination towards products which are horizontal, which are little more spread out, which are little bigger, etc., etc. Homes are now also seen in the context of second homes, where you could go and do some sort of a recreation from your own properties rather than all the time going for a vacation outside. To that extent, preferences have changed, and they have changed forever. And this segment obviously is clicking better and it's clicked very well in the last few quarters. That's one part of it. But then selling within a few hours or selling great, and many of our peers have done that in a few projects that have been launched, and we've all been hearing about those. I think that has got a lot to do with how the products are configured, how the brand works, how the positioning is, how the overall package is. Real estate is not one product. I think it's a mix of so many things. It's a mix of place, it's a mix of price, it's a mix of amenities, it's a mix of brand, it's a mix of your track record. So when it is packaged well, and it is when it comes from a name or a brand which is trustworthy at the same time, I think a lot of things fall in place. And of course, it is backed by some great momentum in the industry in general. And that's when you see some of these stories and some of these kind of traction that we saw in some of these projects.
Right. So you've also announced there's an investment program of 1,000 odd crore rupees. Could you give us any more details on that? How do we see that panning out in the coming quarters? And, as far as your expansion plans are concerned, where are the new launches really going to come up in terms of geographies? You're already present in Ahmedabad, Bengaluru. You started working in the Mumbai metropolitan region as well. Where do we see you branch out going forward from here?
Sure. Geographically, you covered it well already. We are operating out of Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar, and Bangalore as three of our major cities. Going forward, this investment cycle of around 1,000 crores, I think apart from what we'll do in MMR and Pune as a market, both these other cities, existing cities, will take away 50% or thereabouts of our fresh investments.
Okay.
We have now some very definite plans of expanding in the third market, which is MMR and Pune put together. We see this city or these two cities as our further growth areas geographically, after having spent a lot of time in our home market of Ahmedabad and of course our second home, which is Bangalore. By the way, Bangalore is now becoming bigger than Ahmedabad. Last year, out of 800 crores, 60% actually came from Bangalore and 40% came from Ahmedabad. But yes, MMR and Pune is our new geography, and we are working very hard to get something going there. In terms of overall investment and where it will take us, 1,000 crore investment definitely is happening. We are nearing completion of this investment, and we should start hearing some firm project announcements in the coming quarters. Generally, as a thumb rule, 1,000 crore investment should give us anything between 4,000 crores to 5,000 crores of top line. And that's what we are targeting. And that's how the projects are being configured. And we hope that we'll complete this investment cycle sooner than later. In fact, the company, from the capital structuring point of view, is in a very strong footing. We have no debt as we speak. Company is debt free totally on a
Okay.
net basis. There is a significant amount of money which is getting invested from HDFC platform. And then the internal accruals too are pretty strong. We generated more than 200 crores of free cash last year. So all these three kind of sources of funds are available, and that's how investment cycle is going pretty strong, and we should be able to create a very strong pipeline in next few quarters.
Okay. Any particular areas where you're looking to acquire land, especially when I talk about the MMR region, sir, there is very less land to acquire. So are you also looking at redevelopment as a space?
Redevelopment, yes. I mean, we know that redevelopment is one space which is happening in a very brisk way, and there are a very special reason why a player like Arvind should be getting into redevelopment. Redevelopment basically needs a great brand and a trust and a legacy for the existing residents to trust and believe on, and that's possibly one of the most important aspects of making a deal happen. To that extent, we are very well poised. Arvind as a brand in the market of Mumbai is pretty known. We've got a very strong Gujarati connect there as well. And hence we see this as a great opportunity and working around it. MMR will see some action from our point of view for sure. Generally, we are not targeting a Mumbai as in South Mumbai, a price bracket of 60, 70, 80,000 rupees square foot. That's not something that we are trying for the time being. Okay. We are more planning to be in the outskirts, in areas like Thane, in the areas like Mulund, etc., where the prices will be more like in the region of 20 to 30,000 rupees. That's what the bulk of the market is, and that's where the action possibly is going to be stronger than the other segments. And that's what our focus area is in MMR.
All right, understood that. Well, thank you so much, sir, for being with us and sharing all the insights about the quarterly earnings. And here's wishing you all the very best for the coming quarters as well. Hope to touch base again to get more understanding about the business sentiment and the outlook going forward too. Many thanks for being with us, sir.
Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.
Welcome to BTS, that's behind the scenes. I'm Sakshi Batra and you're watching this special offering on Business Today TV. And this is a show where we share a sneak peek into the latest issue of the Business Today magazine with all our viewers. Now joining in on the show with me, I have Alokesh Bhattacharya, Managing Editor of the Business Today magazine. Prerna Lidhu joins in, Special Correspondent. Rachnathan Rajani also joins us. She's a technology reporter with us on Business Today. Well, thank you so much to all of you for taking the time out for this discussion. And now to reveal the first look to all our viewers, this is an issue which is also all about the biggest buzzword of late, AI, that's artificial intelligence. And what we are going to find out in this edition is that whether artificial intelligence is a friend or a foe. Rachnathan Rajani has written the opening essay. I want to start off with you. We're talking about the rise of machines. The debate still rages on whether AI is really good or bad. But the biggest fear among us humans is that how will this rise of machines really affect us? The fears of job losses is rising way too much. What have you really found in your interactions with various sectors? Is there really more fear or more excitement about AI?
It's really not artificial intelligence and automation that's a new story, but it's the rise of generative tools that has sort of created this fear all around the world of job losses. In the duration of writing this piece, we realized that sure, there is a lot of fear amongst people, especially on a very junior level. People are afraid, but more than fear of job loss, it's fear of the unknown. Right now, nobody really knows till what extent can GPT tools go. With Chat GPT, which was GPT 3.5, we saw that it could take the competitive exams just like we humans can, but it would still score pretty averagely. But with GPT-4 that was launched in March this year, we saw that the generative tool scores 90% better than any other human can on these tests. And these are most competitive tests of the world. These are SATs and law entrance and medical entrance exams. So that's where the fear sort of begins. Now there was also another instance of over 1,000 technology experts, including Elon Musk, who's been a supporter of artificial intelligence, cautioning the world. And in fact, they wrote an open letter saying that for now, all the technological progress with generative pre-trained transformer tools, the GPT tools, should be stopped till we know what could be the extent of this. So more than fear of job losses, it's the fear of the unknown as to what are we stepping into. Will we find ourselves in a position where technology has advanced so much that we can't really control it? That's really the fear right now. That obviously means there's a lot of with the advancement, there'll be a lot of ease for companies, because all the redundant jobs, all the jobs that do not require a complex skill, will can easily be done by a bot or an AI tool. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they will opt for it. In fact, when I spoke to TCS's Krishnan Ramanujan, he called it a very boring story. He said that when you say that jobs will be replaced by AI and automotive tools, that's an old and boring story, because that's what happened during the dot-com boom. People said that now that the computers are here, humans will be redundant, but that will never be the case. I also happened to speak to an educator, and she was of the belief that sure, there will be skills that a computer can do, a bot can do, but that doesn't mean that they'll be replacing it. And for us humans, us mortals, to hold on to our jobs, all we have to do is keep on upskilling and make ourselves indispensable.
That's absolutely right. Let me just take this question further across to Prerna, who's also found out how AI is actually disrupting the automotive space right there. How do you assess the way the traditional automotive companies have been working with? How are they accepting this new boom of AI?
Thanks for having me, Sakshi. Yeah, auto is one of the industries that we covered as a part of this package, and it's really interesting because I cited an example of a movie, Batman Begins, where the Batmobile, it's sort of voice controlled. It's doing a lot of functions that sci-fi movies used to show back in the day. But today, it's not science fiction anymore. It's already a reality. In MG and Mercedes. We can control the car remotely to an extent. Obviously, we can't fly them as yet. But that day is not far, maybe. But the point that a lot of companies need to understand is that using technology as a business and using technology outside for the product are two very different things. So how AI will differentiate, and the companies that will adopt AI and technology in the business side of things, supply chain management, inventory management, assessing driver behavior behind the scenes, not just the product itself, looking at the supply chain issues, solving supply chain issues through AI. I think those are the companies that will sort of take a lead. And if we look at jobs in that sense, then again, that is another conundrum that industry players accept, that while there will be jobs that will be created, the old jobs will require a lot of reskilling, like Rachna said. So I think it's similar to many industries in that sense.
Right. Prerna, but are there the fears of job losses even in the auto space? What have you heard from the companies?
Yeah, so companies, some amount of it. So auto industry right now is going through a very interesting phase when it comes to the fuel choice of the company, or as an industry where we're moving towards alternative fuels. That is one kind of disruption that is happening. Then BS6 is another kind of cleaner emissions kind of disruption that we're happening. So obviously a factory is not built every day. So they will have to look 10 years into the future and figure out whether AI is going to be big enough, because these are the kind of churns that are already going around in the auto industry. So obviously the amount of robotics and machine learning that they need on the shop floor, that is obviously going to take away a lot of clerical kind of jobs. That is what people said, and people will also they would require a lot of reskilling. Like for example, there are very small chips that are even today assembled by hand. So that is more precision will be required. Even the robotics will go towards that direction. So those kind of jobs are likely to be replaced for now. But as I spoke to a number of global as well as Indian analysts and companies, I got a sense that AI cannot, even when we talk of autonomous level, full autonomous self-driving vehicles, it's very difficult because the technology is not there yet. For example, if I learn to drive in Mumbai, I will be able to drive in pretty much every city of the world, but that's not true with autonomous cars. If you train them in a Mumbai kind of employment, they might not be able to drive in Goa because that is not they're not that intelligent yet. So I think that is still a long way for them in terms of I don't see drivers being replaced, for example, by autonomous vehicles at this point. And a lot of estimates suggest that we're still around 10, 15 years, like a decade away from that kind of disruption. Otherwise, like the smaller disruptions will continue in the shop floor and
Right,
supply.
Prerna. But I really have have my doubts, Prerna, that despite having driven in Mumbai lanes, whether you will be able to show your driving skills here in Noida, it's even worse, right? Yeah. But we'll talk about that some other time. But there's something very interesting also, in this issue, apart from the deep dive that we have done in the world of AI, and that is on the quarterly BTC for Business Confidence Survey that Alokesh you've done. Help our viewers understand what are the key trends for the latest quarter under review on the growth prospects and on the economic outlook.
Yeah, thanks, Sakshi. Really, the sentiment is not so nice. And I've been saying this for the last 2 or 3 quarters whenever we've been having this discussion, Sakshi, because
Yes.
we sort of the business sentiment saw a peak in the January to March quarter of 2022, right? But after that, the next 4 quarters, the thing has been sliding. And this quarter, that is the last quarter, Jan to March of 2023, saw the BCA at its lowest in 5 quarters. Right now, that would seem to be a little surprising, given that our economic growth is good compared to advanced economies, that our exports are at the highest ever, right? $450 billion plus, and also the WPI has really come down. CPI is also under control. Apparently the interest rate hikes are working and all that, but there still seem to be concerns because our PCI is based on a survey of 500 CEOs and CFOs, and our businessmen of our country don't seem to be too enthused by what they see around them, right? Which is why this thing is going down, because even while the exports have gone up, we'll have to realize that non-oil exports have actually fallen, right? Non-oil products exports have fallen by 6 to 7%, especially in the last quarter. So that has made an impact. And plus, also, while the interest rate hikes might be actually helping in bringing down the inflation, it is also causing a rise in the interest rates for borrowers, right? And that is creating a bit of a problem because the transmission of those rates has not yet completed, because it has been a series of rate hikes of almost 250 bps in total.
Yes.
That to be transmitted completely to the last mile always takes a bit of time. So while partially it has transmitted, it has not completely transmitted, which means that the interest rates are likely to go up even more
Yeah.
going forward. So these are certain things that really played down the sentiment of our CEOs in Jan March.
Right, but what is the outlook going forward, right there? If you're saying that, still there is a lot of muted trend when it comes to demand, both domestically, exports as well. Of course, there are the lingering fears of recession that we hear constantly about as well. Despite the fact that you're saying that, we are hearing a whole lot of worldwide reports that India still emerges to be a bright spot when it comes to GDP growth. Then, what does the outlook on the future quarters really looks like?
So to answer that question, I'll just tell you two simple data points that came out of our survey, right? So we asked our respondents, are you planning to downsize your workforce in the next fiscal,
Right,
23-24?
right.
46% of the 500 CEOs said yes.
Whoa.
18% said can't say, which means they probably will. Which means that a high 60% plus of India's CEOs are saying we will have to cut down our workforce. And if you're cutting down workforce, it's not a sign of growth,
Correct.
right? You can argue that AI aayega to anyway, you'll have to
Sure.
cut job losses, cut jobs, but that is not playing out yet. So this is more about business growth. The second data point is that everybody is saying in terms of what is your biggest worry going forward, right? Now, let's hear this. The biggest worry going forward is inflation, right? Persistent inflation. 43% of our respondents say persistent inflation because the transmission of those rate hikes are still not complete, and a possible recession in developed countries, which we have been talking about for quite a while. but that worry seems not to have gone, right? Despite a lot of reports saying that, recession will probably not happen or it will be a very mild one and all that. But people are still worried about it. So even if you look at next quarter, then it's the onset of the monsoon. There has been a lot of talk about El Nino and the fact that the monsoon might be delayed. And if the monsoon is delayed, it impacts the rural economy, it impacts food prices, it impacts everybody, not just rural economy. Then the trickle down effect comes to us also, right? And to businesses. So unfortunately, not much good news from the business confidence side.
Not much good news right there, but there is some good news emerging again from the startup world and from the auto space again. And Rachna, you along with Binu have done that story on Rapido. Now, this company has been in the ire of regulations, but despite that, it has continued to do well. It has mitigated the immediate challenges that it was facing, competed heavily against the strong funded companies like Ola and Uber. How have they been managing to do it all, and does the road ahead look smooth for them?
Definitely not. Rapido is currently also in a very difficult state of affairs given the regulations. The thing with transportation in the country is that it falls under the concurrent list, which means that every state, every union territory get to decide their own policies with respect to taxis, cab, or any hailing services, which is where Rapido's problems originally began with, because they got in tiff with the rickshaw unions or the bike or the whole licensing of bike cabs in different states. So they're definitely in the middle of the storm right now, but the way they're approaching it is actually one state at a time. They dealt with it in Karnataka, they're still dealing with it in Maharashtra, they dealt with it Delhi, there soon may be new regulations coming in. So road ahead for Rapido also does not seem very straight, but they are definitely unstoppable. They've emerged as the industry leaders of the whole bike taxi industry in the country, at least. And even in the South Asia and the APAC region, they're only on the second or the third spot, which is purely because of how resilient they have been. They started in 2015. Almost bootstrapped. They hardly raised some small angel rounds of funding, and yet they have been going strong. Their policy, the key here lies in their business strategy. With any hailing service, any cab hailing or bike hailing services, you'll see a peak in consumers during office hours, during rush hours, during traffic hours. So what happens between like afternoon hours or the chill hours of the drivers, that's where Rapido has cracked the code, because they not only offer bike hailing services, but they've also emerged as delivery partners for a lot of companies. So which is what has been working for them, because they have been loyal to their captains, as they like to call their riders and rickshaw drivers. The similar loyalty is coming back to them now. So that's where Rapido has been excelling. But talking about the bike taxi industry in the country right now, because there's no one fixed regulation. There are states like Haryana and Goa that have fixed regulations when it comes to bike taxis, and they have allowed them. But then again, there are states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Delhi that are still deciding what needs to be done. We, in fact, happened to speak to one of the Rapido captains who was a lady, because one of the biggest struggles that Rapido has been going through is the cultural stigma attached when you ride as a pillion on a bike as a woman. You don't know who's riding the bike. There were also some cases that we heard. So 22% of Rapido's captains are actually women, which is sort of easing lives of us women users. It's easier to pick Rapido now. The whole cultural stigma bit, I happened to speak to one of the lady captains, and she said that she was widowed a couple of years ago, and when she saw Rapido as an employment opportunity, that really changed her life. And now she has two children that she has put through school and college. So Rapido has really been excelling.
Right, heartwarming story right there, but definitely some encouraging signs emerging for the bike, taxi hailing services right there, and the industry, despite some speed breaks that we may continue to see, as roadblocks for these companies in the immediate future. But overall, also speaking, there is the confidence that is dipping, and AI uncertainty that looms large over all of our lives and various sectors. But definitely, we should keep our hopes high, just like the word that Rachna
used unstoppable. That's how we have to keep our hopes high and look at more opportunities emerging for all of us right there. Well, thank you so much, Alokesh, Rachna, Prerna, for all of your insights onto this wonderful, issue and edition that you both, you all you at Business Today magazine have put together. Just hoping all our viewers also go ahead and grab your copies, because these copies are already out there on the stands. And if there's anything that you really want to understand more about AI, this is the issue that you must go ahead and read. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and do stay tuned on to Business Today TV for a whole lot more coming up on your screens.
Amazon has announced massive investment plans for India. The Jeff Bezos-owned company has said it will invest $12.7 billion or 1,50,000 crore rupees by 2030. The investment will be used to build its cloud infrastructure in India and will support over 100,000 full-time jobs annually. The company has already invested about $6.5 billion in India in the e-commerce sector. For more on this, we're joined by our correspondent Akanksha Chaturvedi.
Well, that's right. Amazon will be investing around $12.7 billion in India's cloud infrastructure. This is roughly around 1 lakh crore rupees. And this would be done by 2030. And this is not the first time that the company would be investing money in India's cloud infrastructure. The company has in fact invested around $3.7 billion between 2016 to 2022 in India's cloud infrastructure. They also believe that this would be creating a lot many jobs in India. To be exact, a little over 1,30,000 jobs every year. And these would be in maintenance, this would be in construction, in telecommunications, and a lot many sectors. What's also worth noting that Indian IT companies and Indian tech companies would also benefit from this infrastructure that would be built by Amazon in India.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.
There are several questions which travelers and those with businesses or families outside India are asking. Business Today TV spoke to Adil Shetty, CEO of bankbazaar.com, to understand better some of the answers. Listen in.
When you're swiping today, you get 3 line items. The item cost in US dollars, the Forex charge of 2%, and the GST on the Forex. You might get a 4th line right now, which is a 20% TCS line when you get your credit card bill. Let's wait for clarity to emerge, because how this is going to get operational by July 1st, all the industry experts are working on it right now, and clarity will emerge in the next 2 weeks. This should not impact remittances for kids' education, because there's an exemption for remittance under the category heads education and medical expenses. So what you pay for your kids' education, right, should be exempt from this change. Specific approval is required if you exceed the LRS cap of $2.5 lakh dollars. So under $2.5 lakh dollars, you make the spend and you comply with the TCS requirement and whatever filing requirement is there. Above $2.5 lakh dollars, you have to get prior approval before you even initiate it. So a separate approval is required above the cap. Clearly, right, the TCS will be paid by you. That there is absolutely no doubt, because you can actually claim this TCS tax collected benefit when you file your income tax. So it's not like the money is gone away and you're not going to get it. It means the money has been deposited in your name, similar to how when you get your salary, your TDS is deducted and deposited in your name. So you can claim that back, right, when you file your income tax. But that happens once a year. So the money is gone until then. So we do expect so, right? Because in addition to using your credit card when you spend abroad, you typically also load a Forex card. So we expect that a similar kind of rule, which affects your credit card spend, and having another line in your entry saying TCS, that something similar might happen to Forex card. But this is hot off, the government notification, and the entire industry is now trying to understand how this is going to be operationalized. For anyone who's traveling post July 1st, just give it a couple of weeks, because I think clarity will start emerging and you'll start receiving communication from your credit card company exactly telling you, and your Forex company exactly telling you how this is going to work.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.
My colleague and the editor of Money Today, Tina Jain Kaushal, also spoke to Mohit Kabra, CFO of Make My Trip, about the impact of the RBI move on tourists planning a holiday abroad this summer.
Foreign travel is to get expensive from July. This is because tax collected at source is set to jump from 5 to 20%. Not only foreign packages, but 20% TCS rule will also apply to credit cards on international transactions. Tell us, how much extra will travelers be paying now?
Thanks for having me. Looks like, with the new, rules coming in, travelers will have to initially fork out about 20% extra while making their travel bookings. Although this would kind of, be reflected as credit in their tax returns in the Form 26AS. So it can be claimed back. So it's more an upfront kind of paying out of an additional amount, but not necessarily an additional cost.
Okay, you said that it can be claimed back, but do you see a dip in travel because of this move?
See, we had seen about 5% TCS getting levied a few years back, and we had seen a little bit of a dip coming through because of that, because